I think I have audio. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Somebody let me know if you can hear me. Thumbs up, thumbs down, that type of stuff. Oop. Adjustable chair. Am I coming through? Are you hearing me? Am I loud and clear? We hear you, Robert says. It's like survey says, right? Yes, sounds good. All good. Sid, Jose first to chat up on this live stream on this beautiful fall summer's night here in the United States. And let's see that cake topper though. Yeah, so I don't have anything to give away because I'm not that complex or anything like that. But if anybody can guess why I'm wearing the special hat today, I will give you a thumbs up. How about that? I am wearing it for a special reason. Tiara, yeah. Hold on, let me put it on like that. Is that better? Yeah, I got my Build It basement crown on. Oh, Chris, you're pretty close. Let me take it off. I hit 1900 randomly. 2000's right around the corner. If I actually did these streams more often and actually produced more content, I'm sure we'd be there by now. It's probably pretty close to the Build It basement anniversary. That's true too. I took it off. Chris was actually close enough that it kind of hurts actually because I didn't put a chamfer on here because nobody has taught me how to use Fusion yet. So anyways, yeah. So how's everybody doing? Let's see who is here right now. We have Shawdell. We have Jessica, who is my wife, but that's my daughter under her name, I'm pretty sure. So say hello if you want to Haley. That's Jessica there. We got Nuno is here. We have Runba, which is Robert. Jose, who I've already said hello to. I'm looking over here. I can look over here too, right? 2 screens in front of me. And I got this nice light box now, soft box, so I don't look so old as I age every day, right? Oh, I see Mark. Mark is here. Hey, Mark, haven't seen you in a while, bud. Who else? Sid, Mark, Jose, some KV 3D guy. I don't know who that is. Is that you, Chris? Hey, and his daughter. Yes. I never knew you had an anniversary with Build It basement. Let's see here. You will get to 2K in no time. Yes, I will. I don't push it. I don't push the subs. I don't push memberships. I don't push anything. You know, this is fun. I've said it before, but originally I started doing these just for the heck of it, so I'd have something up there on the YouTubes for family to see well into the future, because I don't think YouTube's going anywhere. But then other people started watching, so now you guys have turned me into a puppet. So yeah, which is kind of awkward because my first name Kermit, so that makes me a Muppet, I guess. Let's see here. Oh, Chris is lurking. Yeah, so let's see here. We've got a few people on. We've got some likes. We're doing pretty good. All right, it's cool. All right, what is going on with I see that, Jose. What is going on with you folks? Hey, we'll start us off real quick with some basic housekeeping. If you got questions, comments, throw them into the chat. Throw them into the comments after the fact. You guys can reach me anytime at kerm@builditbasement.com. You can leave comments here on YouTube. I answer those usually within 24 hours. You can find me on Discord, on the First Layer Discord, as well as the Voron Discord, the Polymaker Discord, the Chaotic Labs Discord, I don't know, a bunch of Discords. But if you look up Build It Basement, you'll find it. Let's see here. What else is there? Oh, still working out some kinks with the new studio, the new equipment, stuff like that. So I apologize if things aren't perfect, but we'll work towards it. Yeah, so right now there's no background music on this particular screen we're on. So I'm going to switch this one over real quick to this one. And for some reason I still don't have background music. Odd. Okay, well, we don't need music. People complain about it anyways. All right, so this is just a chill and chat session, a little bit about Orca. So I'm gonna get into what I've been doing. I'll tell you a little bit about what is up with the animals. I got KV3D with eyes. I got Jose with a frog, which is fitting. I got Jose with a smiley face, because I guess that's fitting. And then I got my daughter who loves frogs, which again is fitting. And now I got a teddy bear. What's up with the teddy bear? I'd rather have a panda bear. Yeah. All right. And a lion. Somebody come up with a scarecrow. I have a pet frog named Gerald. Yeah, he's hibernating right now. Gerald is hibernating. So, the title of this stream was Chill and Chat, as well as some Orca stuff. And hot down here in the basement. We have a pellet stove going. I'm we, and collectively with you, we are we. Doing a lot of work with Orca, doing a lot of work with tuning. Going to have a relatively in-depth long series of half-hour to 1 hour videos on tuning your printer. A lot of it's going to cross over to just about any printer you have, as long as it's a Cartesian printer. But it is going to be focused using Voron 2.4, and it's going to be using Orca Slicer for the most part. But we also are going to look a little bit at the Ellis tuning guide, as well as the Voron documentation for tuning up your printer too. I actually got a print going on right now. I've been playing with flow rates and things like that. I've been playing with the Orca tuning tools, and I've also, I guess, trying to find better ways to do the tuning, because honestly, you can do a lot with just some basic prints, and since Orca allows you to do some very basic things just in there without using any CAD, you can definitely do some really good testing. We have the panda bears. All right, supposed to be a bear from the, oh, Fozzie. That'd be Fozzie Bear. All right, yeah. I think Disney bought the Muppets, so I gotta be careful what I say though, because I hear that Disney really attacks anybody that touches their properties. Even though I guess I might be able to sue too, right? I'm named after my father. I'm pretty sure my father was around before that green guy. So, all right, so I'm going to, if anybody's got any questions as we move along, please do add them in the comments or in the chat. I'll try to see them. And then I will also be talking a little bit about some emails. So one of the things, I get emails from people pretty randomly with questions and things like that. Sometimes I like to go back and look at those things, because some of them are pretty interesting as to what they do holistic for other people. Sometimes people ask me what they can do to help out the channel, and really the best thing you can do to help out the channel is 1, sub, 2, share, and 3, help other people. And if you find something that's useful, share that with other people. So grow a community, right? Let's see here. I think my daughter's taking over the chat. All right, so let me minimize my studio here with the YouTubians here and bring up this and do my screen too and reposition myself. I want to reposition, put myself right over here over the webcam. You guys don't need to see that webcam. We're good there. And you might be asking why you're looking at Mainsail, and I don't know, actually, good question. For the people that are here right now, how many of you guys use Orca? How many of you guys use Super Slicer? How many of you guys use Cura? I'm wondering what you guys are using for slicers right now. So if you guys can throw that in the chat, that would be awesome. Prusa Slicer, Bamboo Lab Slicer, whatever you're using. Let me know in the chat. Woody is using SS. He's using the Super Slicer. Let's see here. Prusa Slicer, usually. All right. Prusa and Cura. It's kind of an odd combo there, Robert. I'm using Cura right now. Okay. And Orc Slicer exclusively now. Head Rush. Hey, Head Rush. Because I have a Prusa. Yeah, I get that. I use Orca mainly, but for a few weeks now, use Super Slicer. Okay, so next question to the people that are using Orca. How do you like it? What are you finding it? Do you like it better than what you were using before, or why did you switch over? And I'm going to get rid of this chat for a few seconds because I can kind of see what's going on there, but it's kind of blocking what I want to show. So I'm going to bring that back in a moment, but I'm going to take it off for now. So for the folks that aren't using Orca, or maybe the people that are just now using Orca, there is a small learning curve, especially if you come from Cura. Cura uses a completely different menu structure, but I will tell you that there's a lot more support, at least from what I've seen, when you are using something like Orca. The first thing that I found with Orca, and the reason why I moved over to Orca, is the fact that you can set up your printer, which honestly, this is just a little cheap trick, but this is just a web browser built into Orca that allows you to basically see your printer directly from Orca. So I say cheap trick, but it's a good trick to have, because now in your software, your slicing software, you can see your printer, and then you can go back. If you're doing some testing and some tuning, which is kind of what we're going to be looking at a little bit today, this isn't part of the big series, but this is just kind of a quick overview. It makes it really good to be able to come in here, prepare something, preview it, slice it up, and then go into your device and see it, see what's going on, check your console, check your temperatures and everything like that. So that's one of the big things. Orca is split up into a couple tabs up here on top. I'm not going to get into file, menu, things like that. You should pretty much know what those things are if you use a computer on a regular basis. But you do have prepare, which allows you to basically set up what your print settings are pretty much. And things are separated by your filament type as well as your printer type. You can have multiple different printers in here, just like the other slicers. You can have multiple different filaments in here. You can have multiple filaments in a single print. So if you're doing something like an IDEX or a multi-tool head printer, like the black box, which I got a little note on in a little bit here, you can do that. You can add additional filaments right in here as you're going. And I know it's clipped off here a little bit to the side, and I apologize, but there's nothing really that you're missing over there that you don't see, so bear with me on that. So anyways, here are all your settings, and this basically is split up basically between your filament up here. So you can modify your filament settings by clicking here, going in, you know, things like that. And then you have your printer right here. Excuse me, right here. And you can go in here and you can modify things about your printer, your Excels and things like that. And then basically you have here your settings for the current print, which you have broken into quality, strength, speed, and support. Some things are questionable, but you get used to it, such as, I don't know if I necessarily would put, I can see why, but you know, ratios of filament coming out on advanced under quality, it's kind of 50-50. I could see that being under strength. I could also see it being under others, but it's right here in quality. So you have to look around a little bit. So it does use the Arcane slicing engine, but it does give you a ton of things to work with here. So we'll skip through that really quick. But anyways, you get quality, strength, speed, support, and others on your slice. I'm going to open the chat back up real quick, see what's going on over there. Whoa, I missed a bunch. And it looks like my daughter is leaving. Bye, Haley. Have a good night. Can anyone see the menu? I can't see what Kermit is showing. Ah, there you are. I see a red square. It's on the left-hand side. You should be able to see it. I can't see it at all. I'm on default view. Are you getting clipped off? That's interesting. I can help. I can move things. We see it all, Kerm. Okay. Well, like, that was better. All right. I just have the chat over right now. Okay. So I just want to catch up with the chat. I don't see any questions. I'm going to come back over to Orca Slicer for the folks that don't have it or don't use it. Great for me. Okay. I'll move it over a little bit like that. You know, let's do this, because this is the important stuff. We'll leave the chat up and we will do that, because honestly, the big block doesn't really matter. This is like live editing, right? And we'll put me right here. How about that? That is an awesome view, right? Awesome. All right. That works. Awesome. Okay. So anyways, so you have prepare, you have preview, you have device, you have project at the top here. You have your printers. I'll go back over real quick just to show you what's going on here. Yeah. So you have your printers, you have multiple printers, you have multiple filaments, things like that. Your settings are here. They are not grouped into tree sections, so basically they don't expand and contract based on what you're in. Everything is out in open sight. There is an advanced and a non-advanced, so I will show you that real quick. So when you don't have advanced selected, much like Cura and other slicers, it hides a lot. I I think everybody's pretty safe to go to advanced. Just don't change the setting if you don't know what it is. There is another important thing here, this little arrow with the little swingy thing that you revert. So that will revert back to before you made changes to your last saved version of what you're working with. Currently right now I am playing with top surface flow ratio, which we'll look at in a minute because I'm having a little bit of problem. Maybe you guys got some input on it. So I am playing with that, and you can see this little arrow here, so I just have that one that I could change. And then I have something change. Oh yeah, I turned down the infill density because I don't need a lot of infill density on these big red blocks I'm printing. So anyways, so yeah, quality, strength, speed, obviously, that's where you have your print speed and things like that. This is a pretty mundane, not super fast, not super slow, just enough to get it done and be reasonable. Preview is interesting. Okay, preview is interesting because preview allows you, just like in Cura, you can go through, you can see not only your movements, but you can also see your G code as it goes by, which is kind of nice. You can also come up here and you can see basically things by filament. You can see things by speed, by flow. Flow is kind of fun sometimes because depending on what you're printing, if you're printing something complicated with overhangs and whatnot, you can see your flow change based on what you're doing. So here's a for instance right here, the bottom layer as shown in the speed section of my settings is printing with ABS here. So I'm printing the first layer relatively slow, and then by the time we get to layer 2, I'm speeding up, layer 3 speed up, layer 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up through, what is it, layer 17, 18. So 18 is the first layer over my infill, and my infill is only 15%. I'm using this concentric infill just because it's quick. But because it is doing some bridging over those, because it's relatively spaced far apart, it's bridging those spaces. It slows back down again. I can see that right here because of the color difference. And right here, I can see where the chart is as to how much of a difference. Oh, you can't even see that. Ah. You guys can't see it because it's all cut off over there. Oh, man. All right, let me bring that back. Over here. Let me try one more thing here. This is hard to do. Should leave this to the experts. All right, let's try that. So you can see as things go, different flow, different speeds depending on the color. You can also go through and you can see layer time, temperature settings, things like that, all through this right here. And that's under your preview. Device, I showed you briefly. Basically, it's a web browser that shows you your device. And of course, just like you can with the bamboo version of this, you can do your slice. And then once you slice something, and let me just make a small modification here. Let's go and let me put back the way I like it. Let's go and just change one thing real quick. And I'm not going to leave it like that, but I just want to do it so it would want to reslice. So I'm going to hit slice. It's going to reslice it. And now if I want to, I can go print. And I can actually have this upload and print directly to the printer, or I can just upload it for later, or I can hit cancel. So I can actually do my prep, I can do my slicing, and then I can do my upload directly from Orca. And then as it's printing, I can go into my device and watch it print, see what's going on with the print. So let's see what people are saying here. You shouldn't have to mess with the top surface flow. Depends. You know, we're talking about Kerm, he likes to push limits. Yeah, we'll try stuff, you know. So I don't disagree with you, you know, but it depends on what you're doing and what materials you're using and what you're finally trying to accomplish. So what I was playing with, and I'll show you in a second because I have a bunch printed, is top layer, because a lot of people use ironing when they do the top layers, but the problem with ironing is if you measure a you know, a 30 by 30 cube and it's 30 by 30, you're dead nuts on the money with your print. If you go and add ironing to that, then you're going to see 30, probably 30.08 something, or maybe a little bit less than that. But I'm looking for the smoothest surface I can possibly get on the top layer without doing any ironing, without adding additional product to the top layer. But if not the case, if I can't make it as smooth as I want, what happens if we drop the flow down a little bit on that top layer and then enable ironing to give us the little bit of bump of the additional filament that we want to have a smooth top layer? Make sense? Does it integrate with Octoprint? Yes, it can integrate with Octoprint. Printers connected via Octoprint. Yes, it will integrate with Octoprint. Well, I print at 200 to 400 millimeters a second with 15K acceleration on my VC bot. Pretty quick. I'm gonna go grab this real quick. So now I'll show you what I'm working on. And it's not a contest, honestly. There's pretty much only three things you can do with a printer. You can print fast. You can slide through the camera here. You can print slow, or you can print very nice. And then trying to find the perfect combination of those three is kind of where I'm at right now with what I'm doing. So yeah. All right, let's go back over to here. I gotta go back to the prep, and I gotta look at what I had here for a flow. I had turned it way down to 0.87. Where is my Sharpie? Where is my Sharpie? Very quick. Yes, it is very quick. My proof isn't that fast. Boring is being built. Nuno, what material are you printing with? What are you printing? Let's see here. You said 15K acceleration. And what are you printing exactly? Because that's some pretty good accelerations. Sounds like Nuno is a speed demon, and I was not aware of it. So, all right, I'm going to switch over to this camera. Oops. Try to put this in shot so they all show up, and they're all backwards to you guys anyways. But so I guess, you know, at the end of the day, what we're all looking for is the ability to print something like this, right? Actually, let me do even better. Print something like this, a literal sheet of plastic that is 2 layers thick. Actually, this is 3 layers thick. That has a perfect bottom and a perfect top. So pretty much printing plastic paper like that. We'll call it probably about the thickness of a thick construction paper, maybe definitely a little bit thinner than poster board, but this is kind of the end result that I'm looking to be able to get everybody to, just so we know what the end goals are. So yeah, ASA and ABS mainly. With PLA, I need to print a bit slower. Yeah. I'm sure you got some pretty heavy duty fans going too. So again, this is not the tuning guide that I'm putting out, but kind of a glimpse into some of the things I'm working with. So when you actually, let me go back to my main camera real quick here. So here's the thing. When you set up a slicer to slice your prints for you, I think there's a lot of confusion as to what settings you should put directly into your printer config, what settings you should put into your slicing profile, and then what settings should go into the filament. Because there are things that you can have in any of the three, but make more sense to put it in one versus the other. For instance, pressure advance, PA. PA changes based on what kind of material you're using. So what I suggest, again, I don't want to get too deep into this. What I suggest is your PA values come into your filament. And a lot of people don't do that. And a lot of slicers, some settings aren't available in some slicers. When you're printing with, for instance, eSun ABS, which this actually isn't even Nissan, this is Paramount, but the settings are pretty much the same. So I'll probably copy it over and then rename it as Paramount so there's no confusion. But when you're printing with an ABS filament versus a PLA filament versus a ASA filament, which is going to be pretty close to ABS, but when you're printing with different filaments, even from different manufacturers, if you put the PA in your printer.cfg file, you're not going to change every time you print. You can use it as a default value and overwrite every time when you do this, but you still need to put something into your slicer so it knows what to tell the printer, because it's going to change based on what you're printing with for material. It's just like your temperatures and everything else. So that was something that I was noticing that was happening to a lot of people based on questions I was getting. I know you guys probably don't have that problem, but a lot of people do. So that's kind of where that's going to be. So let me get back over to this. And I changed my PA into my slicer only recently. There you go. Exactly. I use Orca PA pattern method. Yes. Okay. Yes. I'm going to look at the, I'm going to talk about the Orca calibration settings too. I didn't even show that. You guys are giving away the good stuff, or the semi-good stuff. I don't know how good the good stuff is, but so I started off high. This is 1.1. Let me put it back where we can all see it. This is 1.15. Okay, and you guys can see pretty easily. It's over extruded. If this was on the side of a print, I'd almost call it almost like a salmon skin. But basically, this is basically the extrusions don't have some place to go, so they're buckling up. And if we look at this really closely, it's going to look mountainous. So let me kind of try to get the light just where it needs to be, like that. It looks like, it looks like if you live where the ocean is, it looks like sand after the ocean kind of comes up and goes back. So it looks like. Yeah. Moray, yes. Do that. It's, yeah, Moray. I'll do it. So 1.15 and then 1.075, which is a difference. Pattern's still the same. Not exactly the same, but still, relatively the same pattern, just different. I will show you this though. So the back side, which I'm not messing with right now, is at 1.1, because 1 is where it stays. One is the static on the printer. So depending on what filament I'm using, like if this, I will tell you right now that with ABS, because I like a little bit more stiction, like that word stiction, to my beds, I basically pump out a little bit extra. Enough so that it sticks really well, but not so much that I get elephant foot. So with like a PLA, or if I was using PETG, PLA would be a 1, and PETG would probably be, which I haven't even tuned PETG. I don't use it all that often, but I'm guessing it would probably be closer to maybe 0.85, maybe 0.89, something like that. So anyway, so we worked off of that, and then we skipped right over 1 because I knew 1 wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but we can now start to see a big difference right there. Hopefully that shows up pretty good in the camera. Nice tight little view there, isn't it? Let me see if is that perfectly in focus. Can we get better focus? Yeah, that's about as good as we're gonna get. All right, hopefully you guys can see that. So we went 1.15, 1.075, 0.95. We're still seeing it a little bit, but here's the thing: is that actually over extruded or is that under extruded? And I'm not going to tell you why I'm asking that question, but I will tell you that I chased my tail for a little bit with one type of filament, thinking I was over extruding, but maybe I wasn't. So went from 0.95 to 0.92. 0.92, looks pretty damn near exactly like 0.95, only there's some different type of irregularity showing up now. Not so much of that moire, but almost like I am under extruding. But let's take it a little bit further. Like I said, that looks like I'm under extruding, but take a look further. Let's get to 0.87. That's the one I just took off the printer. So at 0.87, I have a pretty decent top layer. You know, we're looking at this with a fine, almost like a fine-tooth comb at this point. Let me see if I can change my focus a little bit. That might be a little bit too. Let's see if I can get in on that. There we go. So you can see the under extrusion on there now. Now, if you're looking at this with your eyes, you would not really see it like this. But this is actually what I'm aiming for. Maybe slightly better than this, but probably around, I'm going to guess, maybe around 0.89 or 0.9. And then once I get to that, it's going to be, I've made the mistake under, yeah. After that, basically a ironing layer to bring it up to a final surface level to the amount of plastic that's supposed to be in this part to have a perfectly good top layer. No one talks about that. So I'm looking to undershoot it just slightly, which I've done here. It's also kind of here. So right in between these two. And then basically an ironing layer on top of that to even it out. And you know, the end result, like I said, this is that sheet again. That's the back of the sheet, obviously. I like using a textured bed. And this is the front of that sheet. So this is what I'm looking for end results. And I want to be able to show everybody how to get to that end result on all their prints. So that's kind of what that series is going to be about. So I'm really excited about it. Honestly, it's probably going to be a lot of hours. So hopefully you guys bear with me when you guys are watching it. But yeah, what do you guys think? You guys interested in that type of thing? I think so. If you can see the previous layer, then my guess is under extruded. Yes, I would agree. I've made a mistake for under extrusion. Yes, when it looks like over extruded, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. How many top layers does it have? Are you talking about you're talking about the blocks, these guys? These are using, if you're talking about those, which I think you are, and I want to confirm it here, because they are using, as far as I know, 5 top layers, 5 bottom layers, 4 wall loops on those. So it's not the infill coming through, if that's what you were thinking about. Basically, I'm playing with this for, it's going to be part of printing perfect Voron parts for your Voron printer. That's what it comes down to. So, I think the kitty wants to go someplace. Let's see here. So my PA is set to pressure advance at 0.043. The question is, where is it set to 0.043? Is it set to 0.043 on your printer config, or is it set that way in your slicer? Yes, interested because I've never messed with those settings. Yes, so you should. Everybody should mess with all the settings. Config, printer config. Okay, so and if it works for you, if you only print with really one type of filament and you stick to one type of one manufacturer type, your pressure advance can go wherever you want it. As long, if it's static, then leave it static. But a lot of people don't use static filament. They're using different filaments. So yeah. So this all started, like I said, with trying to get the perfect top layer, trying to get the bottom layer perfect, trying to get the perfect amount of, it's still one of the biggest problems people have is, you know, trying to get that first layer down and stuck to the printer, but not have elephant foot and those types of things. I really, so one of my pet peeves, I don't think I've ever said this, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but one of my pet peeves is when people build a, you know, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 printer and they order, you know, the printed parts for it with the expectation that they're buying a full kit and they'll never have to print parts or anything like that. I really am under the, I think everybody should print their own parts for their printer. Honestly, and I've said it before, is when you build a printer, even if you bought the parts, as soon as you get that printer put together, reprint all the parts. Reprint all the parts, use them as spares, use them to build another printer. Do whatever you want to do with them, but you should always have those parts where you should be able to print the parts for your printer. That's the only thing that separates a home-built printer and buying a Bamboo or a K1 or any of those things. So I'd be interested too. Learning more on tuning is never a bad thing. I have a lot of learning to do. Yes, I use LS test for PA. So there are at least 3 tests for PA. There is the LS one, which depending on which one you're talking about, the LS one, there's one that LS prints that basically it looks like a chevron pattern almost. And then the numbers are on there. It's kind of a mess to clean off your bed. I don't know if they've updated it, but everything is kind of individual lines. There's an updated version. It's a little bit different. I'll look at an Orca here in a second. So yeah, and then you got the old fashioned, you got the box or you got the triangle cube. And there is a reason to do the triangle cube. I was printing a ton of these, not so much for the pressure advance, but I'll show you that real quick. If you've never done pressure advance on a printer, shame on you, first of all. But basically, if you don't know what pressure advance is, it's basically the amount of pressure that the hot end puts forth on filament as it gets close to a corner. Whether that be a 45-degree corner or a 90-degree corner, or even a seam. So everybody should look at their pressure advance. All right, so I'm going to jump back into Cura I'm not jumping into Cura. I jumped out of Cura about 3 months ago. I jumped into Orca. I'm going to jump back into Orca now and look a little bit at the calibration. Yeah, the chevron pattern. Yep. And Orca, Orca has 3, so one of them is the same. But we're going to look at the calibration Orca and show that off a little bit because some people haven't seen it, some people haven't used it. So we talked about, you know, your printer, you're preparing your device, all those types of things. Up here you have your file, you have some other stuff, but we have a tab right here called calibration. What does calibration do, you might ask? Well, it helps you calibrate. So the order of which these are in Orca, and basically when you get done with this video, if you find yourself with some time, I would say go out there, download Orca, it's free, and play around with it a little bit, and then you know, report back. If you have any questions, troubles, or anything like that, let me know. I'll help you out. But these calibration things are actually in a specific order to help you perfectly tune your printer with what they give you here. But there are some things, like I said, that you should do over and above what's here. Not going to get into in this video, but just saying. Producer printer plus producer slicer plus producer filament. You don't really have to monkey with pressure advanced settings. Higher SQL speeds reduce the amount of PA needed significantly. Yes, I would agree. Not everybody's a speed demon though. My problem with speed sometimes, you know, is for one, it's unless you really want to put a lot of work into cooling, and then you're really looking at fine tuning between your cooling and your layer to layer binding. There's a lot that can go wrong. I mean, if you're a speed demon and that's what you're doing, you just want to be able to print fast and you want to get it just right. I'm sure you spent a lot of time getting your temperatures just right, getting your speeds just right for those temperatures. I'm 1000% sure you're printing probably at least 10 degrees higher than you're supposed to. And those fans on even your ABS prints are probably cranked up quite a bit. So anyways, back to calibration. So Orca has these calibration things. First one's temperature. And what they do is they give you basic, actually, let me do one thing first. Let me clear off this. Let me get rid of this real quick. Temperature, and what they do is they want to know what you want to do. Temperature, and this is just going to be a temperature tower. And if you haven't done a temperature tower, shame on you. So we're going to say ABS. I'm going to say we'll start at, let's start at 235 or 230. Let's start at 230. Then we're going to end at 270. Oh, whoops, I got it backwards. It's been a while. 270, 230. And we're going to discard the modifications that we have in here right now. I'm done with my top layer surface testing I was going to do. So I'm going to discard those things. And it's going to, boom, create you a nice little temperature tower for you to play with. Now, the good thing about this is there's no modifications needed. You do not need to modify the G code And I will show you that basically if you go in and we slice this, it is automatically going to, I'm going to change this over to temperature. Where is it? Right here. And it's showing me right here. This is my proof once I do this, that it's actually changing temperature, and it is changing temperature exactly on the layers. I don't need to do any special G-code modification, and it plopped it out that quickly. So I can do my temperature towers right here, and again, that's something you should do for each one of your filaments, but it's as quick as that you can print it off. So that's pretty neat, right? And get rid of that real quick. Let's do that, and then let's see what are people saying. Yep, I have to do a lot of tuning, and you're absolutely right about the rest as well. Yes, and that's honestly, that's a lot of time a lot of people don't see. There's a fine line between the hobbyist and the hobbyist, and a lot of people get frustrated really quickly. I'm actually one of those people who gets frustrated really quickly. So you know, it's what they call diminishing returns. So if you put 1 hour into tuning your printer, you're going to improve your printer's capabilities probably by about 50 to 60% with that 1 hour. Okay, so you're going to be from your baseline, you're going to be doing, you know, we'll say 60% better with that 1 hour. Put 2 hours into it, you're probably going to buy yourself another 10 or 15%. So, you know, you got 2 hours, and then you get your 3 hours, 4 hours, and then someone like Nuno, who's gone to the extreme, has probably got dozens of hours into getting things just right, which by all means do it. But anyways, so that's your temperature, that's your temperature tower. And then you have your flow rate, which I don't like their flow rate test. And I will tell you why here in a second. Once we slice this, I don't like their flow rate test because, and it's pretty standard and it's pretty close to what the Ellis flow rate test is too. But my problem is that the cards that they give you, these little panels, I think are a little bit too small. I think you need a bigger top surface, and I also think that they're too thin. I like to have a base layer, some infill, and some top fill, which is why I was doing the blocks I was doing over here on the side. But to get you started, this flow rate test will work pretty well for you. Yeah. Don't really use temperature towers. You can't really hit high speeds. No, those temperature towers aren't meant to hit high speeds. They're too small and there's too little of a footprint. Unless you want to do a very small temperature tower with maybe 15 degrees variance on it, and you're not getting too high. Yeah. So, anyways, this right here, back here. That right there is your flow rate. So that's supposed to tell you, you know, what rate of flow you're supposed to have in there. And that's good to get your baseline, like I said. There's a pass 2, which basically is a fine tuning. There's not a lot you can change it. So I'm not, again, out of all the tests in here, the flow rate one is just something I don't like as much. Pressure advance, which we've been talking about, they give you a couple different options here. First, they want to know if you're using a Bowden tube or extruder, or you're using a direct. And then you got a PA tower or you got a PA line. So pressure advanced tower is similar to what I just showed you a second ago right here, that guy. And then the line is basic a line. And then they preset you here with a start and a stop. If you do a tower, you're going to see that you get something very similar to what I printed, like that. And then if we go and slice it, and then we go into, actually, do they have pressure advance here? I don't think they do. I don't think we're going to be able to see volumetric flow rate. Where is it? I don't think they have it. This would be, oh, flow right there, yeah. So, no, it doesn't show it. Line width, time, fan speed, temperature. Yeah, so that's one of the things that you're not really going to see on this if you go through and slice it and look at it. But this is one test, so that's one pressure, and this is kind of considered by most people as the lesser test. But what I do like about running this particular test is it also gives you a quick visual on your walls, so you can see if your printer's printing properly in terms of, you know, do you have a lot of let me switch cameras real quick. Do you have a lot of inconsistencies with your walls? You know, again, this is really zoomed in. And any FDM printer you look at, you're going to always see something on the walls, but this is, I assure you, this is very good. I mean, you can see the skin around my fingernails, so this is a very, very, very good print. So, but anyways, that's one of the reasons why I like doing that particular test, is so you can see the actual walls on the print. But there's more. Let me do this. And you have your pressure advance where you can do it as a PA line, which is more like the Ellis the Ellis print. So just to show what I think Woody might have been saying, this is similar. I thought there was 3. I guess there's only 2, but I could have sworn there were 3. This is similar. This basically, what this is going to do is do multiple lines. And as it does the lines, it's basically going to start, it's going to stop, it's going to speed up. And what you're looking for is where these dark blue and this light blue kind of meets in between, is you're looking for this whole line to look basically the same across the whole thing, even though it's making different changes in speed. So it's basically almost like, you know, reading the future a little bit. That it's pressure advance, or PA, is a lot like slowing down before you hit a stop sign, so you don't have to jam on the brakes, and then getting right there, noticing there's no traffic, completely breaking driving laws and just sliding through that stop sign because no one else coming, so you don't actually have to stop. Everything just runs really smooth. You want your line to be smooth. That's what pressure advance is like. You don't want any breaks, you don't want any smalls, you don't want any big smudges on one side or the other. But that's what this is. Now, this is actually a better test per se, and you do not need to do measuring calipers or anything like that. This will tell you right on the side what your pressure advance setting is for that particular filament. Once you've done something like this and you know that your physical printer is printing well, if you want to do a pressure advance for multiple filaments, this would be the way I would go. You could run this off. This is only a layer. Well, I think it's 2 or 3 layers. There's only 2 or 3 layers. And actually, what is the print time on this? The print time on this is 3 minutes. If you don't have 3 minutes to test something like pressure advance, you started too late. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. So let me do this. Go through, delete that one out. And who do we got here? Nuno is talking. No one else is talking. You guys are all letting Nuno do all the talking. On my VZ I have modded Dragon Ultra High Flow Hot End. I basically added the extender to the extender. I already has. Now I have a Dragon Ultra High Flow. You and I are both laughing at that one. Hopefully other people are as well. I've tested up to 50 millimeters squared per second flow so far. Yeah, the fastest I've ever really printed at is about 20 to 22, and I'm using a Dragon High Flow, but I've never gone much beyond that, nor do I have a reason to. That is crazy talk. So yeah, so pressure advance retraction test, especially if you're using filaments that don't do so well with retraction, you know, like Ninja Flex, or you know, flexible filaments in general, or you have a Bowden tube, because this isn't just for, you know, a boron 2.4. It could be something else. You can basically do the retraction towers, and if we go up here and slice it and then change this, and I thought we could see retractions on this. There's some things I guess you can't see. Oh, there we go. So you can kind of see our flows, which shows us our retractions, and you can tell that basically it's changing as it works its way up. So pre in there, you don't have to do any modification G-code. They're in there when you want them, if you need them, for running from multiple different filaments. And I'm going to scoot through this the rest of the way real quick and just kind of hammer through these, even though Robert's talking. So it's retraction test, the Orca tolerance test. This is actually a really good one. And this is your homework. Yeah, this is your homework. So this does basically 0.4 So 0.4 clearance around the tolerance, 0.3, 0.2, and then a 0.1, and then a 0.05, and then a 0. And your homework is to see who can get it all the way to 0. Now, I will tell you, I had to jam it into 0 because 0 is completely a friction fit because of the ridges on your prints. It's going to go in tight, but I can pop it out. I can pop it out. And then if I go in anything smaller, like the 0.05, you know, it goes right in, easy peasy. So your homework is to download Orca and run this test and see what you come out with. Because this is a very telling test, especially if you want to print printer parts. And a lot of this comes back down to me printing parts for the new 2.4 rebuild I'm doing, but also for the black box, because the black box printer that Chris is going to be selling has a really tight tolerance for its parts. And I told you I was going to mention something about that in a minute. So the minutes come. Chris has worked really hard on a printer. It's a multi-tool head printer. I don't know if you saw my last live stream on it. I'm going to see if I can bring it up real quick. But basically, it is a very awesome printer that I want to build. And Chris from KB3D is kind of heading up the kit for it. So he's actually working on manufacturing a complete kit for it with all the information about it. And this is kind of some old stuff about it, but just what I found quickly. It is a very awesome, it's water cooled. It has upwards of 5 tool heads. It's a very nice printer, but it was supposed to be launched right about now, but that's getting pushed back probably by about a month or so, I would say, because of some issues that Chris is having right now with Fusion. I think he's having a problem. Yeah, it's Fusion. But I'm going to be building this printer relatively soon, and I'm really excited about it. But I did mention before, and if you did hear me mention before, I'm letting you know that it's going to be pushed back a little bit because of some issues that he's having. So that was that on that. Let's see here. Oh, I can't multitask. Do you want me to take notes or not? What are you talking about? Brothers, but I'm listening and learning. I've tested Robert. Yep, second Robert's comment. Cool. Will this be a will this be on test? The only thing on the test is for you guys to do that tolerance test, because I think some of you guys will be surprised. So let me bring back Orca now that we've done that, and I brought that up. Oh, one more thing about Chris, since Chris has popped his head in. I ordered, and let me see if I can bring it up. Probably going to have to go into the kb-3d.com. And just so everybody knows, maybe the black box do the tolerance. Maybe I'll have black box do the tolerance. You should have, that would be awesome. Do it. I'd be interested. Do it. I have no real affiliation with Chris other than I think he's a really nice guy. He just happens to make a living selling 3D printer parts and printer stuff. And he's honest, he's nice, he's always available when you need him, and sells the stuff I like. So that's my affiliation with Chris, and that's the only affiliation I have with Chris. But he did have a, what does he call it? A group buy a while back, and that group buy was for a filament dryer. And let me see, I thought there was a previous group buys button somewhere over here. So last one they did was for this filament dryer, which is a very high-end, nice filament dryer. And I have one coming. I think they're probably arriving next week, and Chris is going to be shipping it to me. But I asked Chris if he had any additional ones. A couple people asked me if he was going to have them for sale. The answer is not really, but he may have a couple of additional ones available. This price right here is the group buy price, but that's because we basically paid for it in advance. So expect the price to be slightly higher, and if Chris wants to write down what the price is going to be, cool. If not, whatever. But I need a drink. That's what it is. I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the black box, and I'm excited about printing with some PA6 that I'm afraid to take out of packaging because, actually, I'm not now because it's getting to be wintertime here, so it's not so humid. So let's get back into the Orca after we look over here. Maybe I'll do, yeah, I'm downloading Orca just for the tolerance test. Perfect, you do that. Download it for the tolerance test, but stay with it because it's so good. Let's see, tomorrow they arrive preparing my arms now. Yes, they are big, they are heavy, they are filament dryers. All right, so let's see, what do we have left here? We have more. Okay, so max flow rate. So this is basically a volumetric test that you can do right in Orca. And you might be asking yourself, what is max flow rate? Why do I need to know my max flow rate? So max flow rate is basically the amount of filament that you can push through your extruder at a certain temperature without having any skipped or missing extrusion. Sorry. So what this will do is this will push out a elongated kind of a back and forth but rounded pattern. And specifically the reason why it's like this is so that there's no stops. Other than when you do a Z-hop for a layer change, this basically your printer just goes through it as fast as, well, not as fast as it can. It will slowly speed up as it goes through it. So if I slice this real quick, and right here we have flow, you can see, first of all, that looks really cool. And second of all, we start off with the green, we move up through yellow, all the way up to red for our max flow rate. And that is pretty cool. So why do you need to know your max flow rate? Well, if you're like Nuno and you want to be able to print fast, the very first thing you need to know is can your extruder and your hot end keep up? Because those are the two things that usually are going to have issue with first is can you pump out enough, filament to do what you want to do. After that, all becomes, physical limitations of your printer, how fast your steppers can go without overheating, and basically, what are your tolerances like? What are you going to see for irregularities in your print because of the speed you're going at, But anyways, that's your max flow rate. And then once you have this, you can put these settings directly into your filament settings for that particular filament. So this is another thing that you want to do on a per filament basis. Let's see here. Tomorrow they arrive prepping, and there are 60 of them, I think. Not 60 extra, right? 60 total. Because I asked you earlier, and you said there might be 4 or 5 extra. I'm thinking on making a filament dryer myself for 3/4 spools at least. Oh, 3 or 4 spools at least. Yeah, the cheapest, easiest way are those food dehydrators. Everybody seems to, or at one point we're using those. I have a small Sunlu unit. Chris knows those units way better than I do, and I don't want to say anything that's not true. But Chris, if you wanted to throw a couple of notes in here as to what's special about that filament dryer. I know it doesn't use just a heating coil in it, and it's more of a turtle than a rabbit type scenario. So it just constantly runs at low amount of power and keeps everything just on par. So if you have some additional information about that, Chris, you can throw it in there. Because I don't think you'd be able to build a filament dryer that would be as nice as that unit is. And I know that you're not over here in the States, so you're not going to buy it from Chris, but it's a very nice unit. So there's your volumetric flow rate. Everybody should know what that is if you want to print fast, and eventually everybody does want to print faster. Maybe not fast, but faster, because that's kind of the point of some of the stuff, right? So let me get rid of that. And let's see, what else we have? We have VFA. Now, VFA will allow you to see basically your irregularities on your walls as you move through. And what you're looking at these is basically different angles. So you can see here you have 0, 45, 60, 30, 90. So these are all different angles that things are going to come off at. This is, you know, as you're printing. And this actually will allow you to see, based on these angles, what the changes are. So if you think you might have an issue, you know, one of the big things that's come out is salmon skin, which is usually, or what they call it, wood grain. Wood grain is usually salmon skin, wood grain more so, is usually a extruder, especially if you have a double extruder. I forget what they call those. Somebody will write it. And then basically through the filament, for some reason it tends to cause some issues, some weird wood graining here. This will kind of show you those types of things here. This test right here looks pretty big. And here's another thing about the Orca slicer in general. Even though these tests, some of these look relatively big, this is showing a print time for the settings I have of, let's see here, 48 minutes. So under an hour to do this test, which isn't bad, you know? Yeah. All right, so last but not least, we have, and let me look at the comments here again, relies on low wattage Peltier. Yeah, that's what it is. Less than 3% store. Yep. Slow drying wet filament really takes as long as dance. Dual drive. Yes, dual drive extruder. But it can, as environment much drier as a filament, and double pulls back out. Yep. So what I would say with the filament dryer that Chris is selling or did the group buy with, and he does it every year, maybe, I think, is that you want to start with decent filament when you put it in. I mean, it will dry out filament long term, but I think the point of it is you put your relatively expensive filaments in it, or if you live in the tropics, all your filaments, and it keeps those filaments optimal, right? So, so many words. Every May. Does it every May. The extruder is great for limiting salmon skin and whatnot. How wet is filament straight from the supplier? You know, I don't have those numbers. I've seen some very weird things on that. Who did that? Thomas Sandlander did a wet filament video recently. And I think he was seeing things around 5 to 7%, maybe. And then he was actually dousing them in buckets of water to see what the differences were. I don't know that his results were conclusive, but yeah. It's quenched in water, so I wonder. Yeah. And again, filament, sometimes it can be quite bad. In other cases, dry. I don't know when the camera goes. So the other thing is too, some filaments obviously are more hygroscopic than others. PLA is pretty safe. ABS is relatively safe. PETG is notoriously bad. Polycarbonate's pretty bad. Nylon is horrible. Nylon is the sponge of filament. So that always requires some type of dryer or drying before you use it. Off spreading. All right, see you, Chris. Thanks for stopping by. You go prep. You go do your thing. I'll swing in a minute. I can't do a raid from YouTube to Twitter, but you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put into the chat. I'm going to put the link to Chris's Twitter stream when we leave. Well, when we get. Actually, no, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it now. So Chris usually streams at 9 o'clock. So I don't know how many of y'all are going to be around, but I'm going to put a link on for Twitch. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word on the stream. No, maybe the YouTube gods will pick up on this, but I'm going to throw this in here. That right there is Chris's Twitch stream. Gary T, howdy y'all. Hey Gary, how are you? So, like I said, he'll start at 9 o'clock. Thanks, no problem. And he'll keep going. I'm going to end off here probably way before, well, not way, but a few minutes before Chris starts. So Chris knows I go to bed early. But yeah, so if you guys want to go over and check out what Chris is doing, Chris has been doing some Twitch or yeah, some Twitch streams. He was actually doing the black box build on that. And right now he is building a 2.4. I think it's an R1, not an R2. I think he had some stock he didn't sell. But nonetheless, yeah. So anyways, all right, let me get rid of that. Let me do my last couple things on the Orca thing, and then we'll do a little quick chill and chat, and then we'll call it a night. But yeah, so we've gone through, we've looked at all the calibration, we've looked at kind of basics on Orca. And again, if you have questions, feel free to get a hold of me, leave a comment. Comments, people always ask how I can help me out. Leaving comments on videos helps out because it shows interest in the video, which means YouTube shows it to more people. So by all means, leave comments. That helps out. If you get to a point where it's going back and forth quite a bit and you think it's better to bring it offline, if you go to my YouTube channel, you can find my email address. You can contact me there. But last but not least, again, one of the things I really like about Orca Slicer and and some other slicers out there now too, but you can do primitives straight from the slicer without dealing with any type of CAD program. And for primitives in Orca, you have an Orca cube, you have a 3D benchy. You don't want to print a 2D benchy. You have an Autodesk FDM test, you have a Voron cube, you have a cube, cylinder, sphere, and cone. Now your Orca cube is your quintessential cube, and it prints, do I have one around here? No, I don't. I left it someplace else. What's neat about this particular test that they give you is it does have stuff. It has embossed print here, Orca Slicer. It has an Orca logo here on this side, right there, which is kind of nice. And it has your X and your Y and your Z, obviously. And then an X right here on this side. And then if you can see this little piton, this button on the side here with the threads on it, that has a little thumb screw on the bottom of it, and it's meant to thread into the bottom of the unit like that. So it is a pretty decent little test. I don't think it's, you know, like the tolerance test in terms of what it can do. And if you do a tolerance test, by the way, let me know. Shoot me some emails. We'll look at them next stream, next live stream. So do send me those if you guys do them. I'm interested in seeing what you guys come up with. So that's a pretty good one. And then another primitive you can do right here, you can do the 3D benchy. I don't need to show you. If you don't know what a 3D benchy is, then go look. This is kind of a 1-for-1 all is all test right here. You've got your stringing test here on the top, as well as your cooling test with those spikes on the top. You have a tolerance test right down here with your 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 right here. You also have an overhang test right here, and it goes from 45, 30, 20, 15. Then you have a bridging test right here on the side, and you also have a bridging test in a way. Zoom out a little bit right here, because this is going to require some bridging to do what it's doing here. It's about a 45-degree angle. So this is kind of a quick all is all test. I think this one actually takes a couple hours to print. Let me look. That doesn't seem right. Or it takes 10 minutes. Why did I think it took a couple hours? That's weird. Where, oh where? Where, oh where did this slice off the center section of it? Something weird's happening there. That might be a bug, I don't know. I've done this test before and everything was there. But we'll get rid of that real quick because that doesn't look like it's going to work as it stands. Let's see here. Gary T, I like the screw for accuracy. I missed the start, but those available. I missed the start, but those available by default in Orca, yes, they are. 100%. Does everyone do the complete calibration for every filament, even across the same brand? No. And I don't think you need to do them across the same brand, a complete calibration. I think temperatures are one of those things that people keep on talking about. You got to do a temperature tower for every single filament. I think anybody that's been printing for a while realizes that you can print probably within a 20-degree temperature range and still have decent prints. If you really want to get into fine tuning, or if you want to do what Nuno is doing, which is printing at insane speeds, and you got to get it more fine tuned, it's probably going to be, like I said, 10, 15, 20 degrees higher than normal. But I don't think you need to do temperature towers for every single filament. I think pressure advance is going to be pretty decent. I think pretty much the only thing I would worry about within a manufacturer for the same type of filament would be just to confirm that your settings are the same, that they work. I've heard people say something about colors working differently, but I don't think the variances are enough that really matters. But I'm not looking for somebody to prove me wrong. I'm sure there's somebody out there that makes an ABS with absolutely no coloring in it that melts at a much higher temperature than one that has a coloring in it. So, there's always going to be a variance. There's always going to be exceptions to the rules, but for the most part, I think your filaments are going to be within 5-10 degrees. Probably closer to within 5 degrees for any particular manufacturer for a brand of filament. Now, the one thing you do want to keep in mind is when you're dealing with somebody like, I'm looking at my wall back there with all the filament, when you're dealing with somebody like Polymaker, who makes multiple filament types within the same filament type, does that make sense? Like they have their Polyterra, but they also have PLA and things like that. Those might have slight differences in them. When you're dealing with a complete different type of filament from the same manufacturer, I think at that point you do want to double check and probably run things. But what I would suggest always doing is a small print, and that actually gets into what I was going to show you next on the primitives here. And you missed the beginning, but one of the small things I like to do with primitives is I like to come over here to a cube, and this is basically just a basic cube. If I click on it and I go to sizing of it, it'll tell me it's a 30 by 30 by 30, which is an okay test. I don't like 30 by 30 by 30. I prefer a 50 by 50 by 50 cube because, for one, the math is a little bit easier to do, so you can see what your tolerances are, see what you need to modify. And for two, it gives you a bigger test bed. Now you could make a Voron cube or a Orca cube or whatever larger, but since there's no designs on the outside, this is strictly for testing to see how close you are for your X, Y, and your Z. I think this is a really good test for that. Now the other thing I like to do, and you did miss the beginning, Gary, but we were talking a lot about these guys right here, my little 20 or so layer flat plates. And then we also talked about printing plastic paper, which is where I kind of want to get everybody. What you can do with these cubes, you can do two things. Two things I think is really a test that everybody should probably try out. One being, we're going to put this back to 100 here. And actually, one thing is this. I like to do 3 millimeters. So we now have a 3 millimeter block like that. And this is a good bed test to make sure that your bed works everywhere. You can come here, and then basically if you right click on that, you can hit clone. And this is the same as replicate or anything like that, but I can go ahead and clone it 4 more times. It's going to give me 4 of them. I'm going to go ahead and place them out on my bed. Like that. And there you go. You just did your own bed leveling test. Easy as that. And I think that's a lot of times easier than dealing with, downloading something or using another test. I think, and that's kind of one of the root things about my series that's going to be coming up about tuning your printer, is I think a lot of things that you do when you tune your printer, you should do yourself. You can download a bunch of tuning things and whatnot, but most of those tests you can do yourselves. Most of the tuning tests, when it comes to doing your bed leveling test, only have like a layer of 2 of these types of blocks on them. But I think having multiple layers after that make it something a little bit, something extra. Top and bottom layers, remember, I think I have to download it tomorrow. Yes, infill. You have 0 infill. 0 infill on the block? No, because you wouldn't get your top layer on unless you're really working hard to get a really good bridge across top. But I dare say you could easily get away with like a 10% infill. That would be pretty easy. Let's see, Mark Davis. Okay, part 1 of homework done. Download Orca Slicer. I'll use it over the next few weeks. Always hard to switch once you know a product. I did like some of the features you showed us. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And I'm right there with you. I used Orca for probably 3 years. You just get used to something. Orca, sorry, Cura for 3 years. You just get used to something. And it took me a while, but I decided I have to get off of Cura. And honestly, the biggest reason I wanted to get off of Cura, because I noticed that a lot of people that are in the space that I'm in with videos and things like this don't use Cura, and I didn't know why, and I couldn't figure out why. So I decided to figure it out why. And the reason why is there's a lot more functionality out there for other things. So right there is your quick bed level test, just using those primitive blocks. Now you can come to this one block, and it's going to come here. I'm going to modify it again. I'm going to click on that. And this time I'm going to change that Z to 1. Actually, we're doing 0.4, 1.2. And I'm going to scale it. We'll make it a 200 by 200. And there you go. There is your flat bed test. And you can drag that out across your whole print if you wanted to. And if you wanted to do the paper test, you can do a 0.8 on your Z. And that will give you pretty much what that print is that I just showed you a minute ago, my plastic paper. It's a 200 by 200 by 0.8 on the Z. So, yeah. So I guess that's my quick rundown on Cura. Jeez, I came all mixed up on Orca. Let's see here. I meant on the test piece. Which test piece? On the block? On the block again, yeah, 10%. On these, if you're talking about these have 15% infill. And I can take one that's that loud. My manly muscles. So actually, that's kind of cool looking. Let's go over here. So that's a 15% infill on this. And you can see that looked like that was a concentric infill. I did it for speed, but I didn't want something that was just solid layers. There's our bottom layer. There's our top layer. There's our concentrics on the inside. You may have to had zero infill on your torch test piece you created. You may have had zero infill. Which torch test? You talking about the flat piece, Robert? This one? That is just top and bottom layers. There is definitely no infill on this. No room for infill. I actually have two of these. And you can actually see through these. I don't have anything with a light on it. Oh, actually, yeah. Got my cell phone. Let me just see right through it. Yep. So, yeah. Anywho. So anyways, any last questions or anything about that? Yes, 10-minute print. 10-minute prints are awesome. 10-minute prints are awesome for testing. Don't run any 4-hour prints for testing. You want when you run that 4-hour print, you want to make sure you're printing right. Unless you have lots of spare time. The one calibration, just 10-minute print. Bridging, overhang, stringing. Oh yes, that showed 10 minutes now. Oh, because no support. Now I get you. It's not supposed to need it. So what you're talking about is this thing right here. The Autodesk FDM test. So this actually is supposed to have its own support built into it. I don't know why when I sliced it, it went away. Let me try it again. Yeah, it's doing weird stuff. I'd have to look into it to see why. I'll show it to you guys again. I don't know why it's doing what it's doing. I've run this test before. It did not look like that. That would be a torture test if there ever was one. If you can find a FDM printer that can print that, then you've got something special. So yeah, they're the supports are built into it. It's not supposed to need additional supports on that. Make a nice rat's nest. Yes, it would. It would. It would. Anyways, so yeah, so nice hanging out with you guys. I guess coming up, we've got, like I said, that whole series on maximizing your printer in terms of getting it to work as fast and cleanly as possible. Still got the Voron 2.4 rebuild with the, you can see the little corner of the logo over there with the Super Voron. I already got some modifications I'm working on for the Ultimate Voron build we did a while ago. It's going to be changing names to the Minion Voron build, but it's not a Minion, that's already a printer, but it just looks like a Minion, trust me. So that's going to be fun. What else are we doing? We got the black box build coming up this winter as well. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. Two very good series, yeah. All right, well, if there's no other questions, no further ados and whatnot, I'm going to say, have a good, hold on. I get blobs on the purge tower every filament change on Orca and your eccentric rabbit carrot feeder. Or erratic. Like it purges on the place before moving around the tower. Any ideas on that? So you're getting the blobs on the actual tower. Are you doing, so my guess would be if you're doing filament changes on it and you're using the Orca provisioned temperature tower, it's not giving you a place to purge your filament because it's not meant to do that. You'd have to, what I would do, I would guess, is you'd have to go back. This would be one of those instances where you would have to modify the G code a little bit, but what I'd go back is, I'd go back into the side panel, and this is just a guess because I don't have an erratic or an eccentric enraged rabbit carrot feeder. The unit scares me. I don't know how they work, or I should say I don't know how they work well. I've never met anybody that has one that works really well. But what I would do is I would come into it, and I can't use this because this thing messes up, but I would come into it and actually, let me just actually do a temperature tower. I would look at my slice, I'd slice it up. I would go to my temperatures. So, and then I would work my way down. And then basically, just like you were manually doing your temperature changes, I would add, the way you would add, I would add a purge. I'm sure you have a macro for purge, but you would click on the, come on. Why is it not playing nice? You right click on it and you can add custom G code right there. I think what you need to do is do a quick purge between your changes, or else you're going to wind up with that issue. But I can't be sure because I really don't know a ton about the enraged carrot feeder. Let's see here. Some time ago you mentioned a video about changing splash screens. Is that in the cars? You talking about splash screens on the clipper screen? Said? If so, yeah, that's definitely in the cards. I actually, remind me, leave me a comment on this video to remind me about that, because I want to do 2 or 3 different splash screens that are Voron related so people can use them. So yeah, definitely remind me of that. Have a good run, good stream here, have a great week. You too as well, Mark. Thank you. Like early and often, I guarantee. I hit twice, does that count? It poops it poops on the purge tower. It thinks my Voron is a bamboo printer. Well, I'd have to look into it, Super. I don't know for sure, and I don't want to give you bad advice, honestly. I'll send you a PM. Awesome, Sid. All right, guys, I'm going to call it quits. Let's see here. Chris is already started, so I'm going to paste that in one more time. If you guys find some time, I know we can't do a raid between YouTube and Twitch and all that stuff, but I'm going to jump over there for a minute. Hopefully I see you over there as well. And I'm going to say good night. Have a great week, and hopefully I see you again soon. See you later.